Assemblymember McCarty, you have one item, item 13, AB 1307. Welcome.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Or good morning.
You're still morning.
Almost. First, I'd like to start off by accepting the committee amendments, and thank you for working with us to further clarify the intent of AB 1307, which really is focusing on creating greater transparency and accountability at our public colleges and universities related to proposed student fee increases. This measure simply builds upon existing law and requires that the segments, UC and CSU, follow provisions of the California Student Fee and Tuition Transparency Policy. A recent LAO report in the fall determined that, unfortunately, the University of California was non-compliant with several provisions regarding the Student Fee and Transparency Act of 2012. This measure will simply ensure that students and their families have sufficient public notification and opportunities for engagement before proposed student fee hikes go into effect, and so they can better plan ahead and save for a college opportunity here in the state of California. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. With me today is a representative for the California Faculty Association.
Thank you. In support of the bill.
Good morning. Nora Lynn on behalf of the California Faculty Association, in strong support of AB 1307. We believe its provisions will increase transparency for higher education students and their families. And additionally, the maintenance of a steady stream of funds for institutional aid will assist the state's students in greatest need. We're really grateful to Assemblymember McCarthy for bringing this forward, and we'd like to ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any others in support of the bill?
Sean Conley with the University of California Student Association, here in support.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Liz Ortega with AFSCME 3299, here in support of the bill.
All right. Any others in support of the bill? Is there opposition to the bill?
Good morning, Sandy Freed with the University of California. We have an opposed unless amended position on this bill. We want to thank the Assemblyman and the committee staff for the amendments that have been recommended and accepted, but we still have a concern about the effect that this bill would have on our ability to provide aid to graduate non-resident students. This is a very distinct population than undergraduate students, and being able to provide aid to these folks is really important in our ability to compete nationally to enroll them. So we'd like to continue to work with the author on trying to address that concern, and appreciate, again, the amendments that have been accepted so far.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Don Gibson. I'm here representing UAW, and I'm a graduate student at UC Davis working on my PhD at the moment. The UAW represents 13,000 graduate student teaching assistants, readers, and researchers at the UC. A large percentage of these are non-residents when they are admitted to the UC, and most of them are low and middle income. Many of them receive financial aid packages, and these packages are critical to recruit the best graduate students for our world-class universities. The UAW is also taking an oppose unless amended position on this bill. We do strongly support the notification and consultation provisions, but we cannot support the bill unless it is amended to exempt non-resident graduate students from financial aid restrictions on return to aid funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the bill? Assemblymember, would you like to address the issue of non-resident graduate students?
Sure. Well, first and foremost is we hear their concerns and we're talking to them. But I guess one of the things that it's important to note is when we took the amendment, your committee amendment, we get rid of the requirement as return to aid. We certainly encourage them to follow that policy. So it's somewhat of a moot point. But I guess the bigger question we're trying to grapple with is we want to make sure that financial aid is focused on California students. We had this issue we focused on our budget committee this year, but it was, came to light that, tens of millions of dollars in financial aid was going to out-of-state students. And that was focused primarily on undergraduate. And so this is a graduate piece. It's a bit of a nuance. And so we're taking a look at it and, continuing to try to see if we can find a spot that makes sense.
A sweet spot. Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions from members? Senator Block.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Ms. Freed raises very reasonable concerns, and I'm pleased the author is going to be continuing to work with the UC on this. With the amendments taken, however, this clearly is a bill that deserves support, and I will be supporting it.
Okay.
I'll move the bill.
Thank you. Okay. All right, the bill has been moved. Any closing comments or questions, or not closing comments, Mr. McCarthy?
Thank you for your consideration and ask for your aye votes.
Thank you. Okay, let's call the roll.
To pass as amended to appropriations. Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. Runner?
Aye.
Runner, aye. Block? Aye. Block, aye. Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mendoza?
Aye.
Mendoza, aye. Monning? Pan?
Aye.
Pan, aye. Vidak? That's 7.
You have 7 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll keep the roll open for our absent members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Assemblymember Tang, you have 2 bills, items 16 and 17, members. AB 1385 and AB 1397.
And if it's okay, I'd like to take AB 1397 first.
1397, sure.
Thank you. Well, first, let me just thank you, Madam Chair, your staff, and frankly, all the committee members. I know that we've had numerous meetings and discussions about these bills, and I very much appreciate your time and your committee staff time. Our community colleges are a treasure in each of our districts. They are the schools where people start their higher education careers. They're the place where new Californians land and they find a place to go take their English classes, or they're a place where we go when we decide we want to change careers and take computer programming or culinary or any variety of courses. They are, frankly, the backbone of our economy. The accreditation of our community colleges is a peer review process meant to ensure academic performance. The process is directed toward self-improvement and not supposed to be punitive in nature. In California, the Accreditation Commission for the community and junior colleges has taken punishment to an absolutely new level. Between 2009 and 2013, our state auditor released a report last year documenting that the ACCJC sanctioned colleges at a rate of 54%, while other regional accreditation organizations sanctioned it at a 12% rate. But the ACCJC hasn't only been sanctioning colleges since 2009. If you ask my colleague, Don Wagner from Irvine, his situation with Irvine happened over 12 years ago. In Los Angeles, the LA City College campuses have been lined up. Their community colleges have been accredited at different dates, but for some reason, all of them are going to be accredited moving forward on the same day, I believe, this year. So you might say, when is enough enough? We could always wait. We could wait for the federal government to do their job and the U.S. Department of Ed to make sure that they are properly accrediting this accreditation agency. We can ensure that the state chancellor do his job. He currently has a task force, and they're supposed to be releasing findings on this accreditation issue sometime later this fall. I would note that in 2012 and 2013, this task force is also convened and met. They had findings, they had conclusions, but they were never published. They were never reported. So at what point should we continue waiting? With so many community colleges being sanctioned at a significantly higher rate, we must ask ourselves if now is the right time. AB 1397 really merely tries to have openness and transparency. It's the same kind of openness and transparency that any advisory board, any commission, any body in the public realm would be asked to abide by. In fact, if you look at the opposition's letter, they are saying that they would have trouble getting volunteers by merely having these standards of openness and public comment. If that were the case, every local, county, and state commission and frankly, advisory body could argue the same thing. By fairness, all we're asking for is that colleges have the opportunity to appeal any sanction. Currently, they can only appeal a sanction that is on the threat of closure. We want more transparency by having stronger conflict of interest policies. We want to ensure there's more public access to the public portion of the meetings while still ensuring that the Accreditation Commission has opportunities to remain in private. We also want to make sure that we have adequate time for public comment. I know that they make the meetings a little bit less smooth, but again, as public agencies, we owe it to the public to be accountable to them. And lastly, we want to require minutes make sure that as the accrediting bodies are accrediting these very public agencies funded by our state dollars, that those minutes can be released and are available to the public. I urge your support for AB 1397, and thank you for your consideration.
Okay.
I have witnesses here.
All those in support of the bill, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mike Clare. I'm the president of College of San Mateo. I represent my colleagues in the San Mateo County Community College District. I've been president of the college for the last 10 years, 27 years total at the college. And most importantly, probably for this committee, in those last 10 years, I've served on 10 accreditation site visits, 9 of those visits as a chair. My college, along with our sister colleges, also recently received full reaffirmation of our accreditation in 2013. So I think I bring a very balanced perspective, both serving on teams actively and also as an institution who recently had his college reaffirmed. I strongly advocate an independent and unbiased peer evaluation process with tough standards that are uniformly applied, and I want to make that very clear. And that's really why I'm here today. I very much appreciate the Assembly member's bill because, as he's very well pointed out, the measures in this bill are really just common sense best practices that are needed. I want to give you one example, and I have numerous examples, but I want to give you one example as a team chair. I was in a team chair training a few years ago, and a number of us were together, and there was discussion about the colleges we were to visit. And this wasn't a college that I was responsible for, but a member of the ACCJC staff told the team chair that the college that person would be visiting would most likely receive a show cause. And if you understand the accreditation process, show cause is the most severe sanction you can place on a college short of removing accreditation. That was an eye-opening experience for me because that's not the way it's supposed to work. The team is supposed to go out and make a recommendation. The commission certainly has the opportunity to have a differing opinion. That's certainly the commission's choice. But that was eye-opening. What was interesting as well is that a member of the team, happens to be a colleague of mine, was livid when sure enough that college was placed on show cause. Yet the team's recommendation was full reaffirmation. Huge gap between what the team had recommended and what the commission finally came up with. Maybe they should have been put on show cause. We don't know. The fact of the matter is there is a huge gap in the decision, and that creates really a credibility gap with the member institutions. You'll hear arguments today, and I understand them, that accreditation is a peer review process, that it's a membership-driven process, that it's voluntary. And to a certain extent, that's true. But I have to tell you, as a community college, a California community college, we have no choice, even though by law now, or by reg, we can actually change accreditors. The reality is all of us are members of the ACCJC. There's no other alternative. The fact that it's a membership-driven institution, that's true, but not completely, because the way the commissioners are currently selected, while it's true that anybody can be nominated or you can nominate yourself, the actual selection of commissioners is made by a subcommittee appointed by the ACCJC. And frankly, that provides some insulation in terms of change that's needed. And that's, again, why I very much support this process. And so with that, I just want to remind the committee, and I know you know this, that each one of these sanctions costs collectively the system millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer money and resources that could be spent on students. And that's why I urge your support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. In support of the bill.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Dean Murakami. I'm here before you today on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers. I'm president of the Los Rios College Federation of Teachers, AFT 2279. I'm immediate past president of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges, and I've been a community college faculty member at American River College for the past 25 years. You know, accreditation is critical and important peer review process established to evaluate a college's overall educational quality and institutional effectiveness. Accreditation for our community colleges provides assurances to the public that the accredited member colleges meet robust educational quality standards and that an education earned at our institutions is of value not only to our students, but also to our California employers, trade or professional licensing agencies, and also other colleges and institutions. In order for accreditation to hold this value, it must be credible. The actions of our regional accreditor, the Accrediting Commission of Community and Junior Colleges, ACCJC, have undermined this credibility for those of us who rely upon its a seal of approval. We have lost faith in that process. The recent decisions of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, the legal decision from San Francisco attorney lawsuit, and the recent decision from the Department of Education attest to the numerous deficiencies within ACCJC. Among the many deficiencies, as faculty of California community colleges, we are particularly concerned about a peer review process conducted by accreditation teams lacking adequate faculty representation. For example, in 2013, the 9-member show cause team from City College of San Francisco included only 1 faculty member. In 2009, the 9-member evaluation team for American River College, my college, included only 1 faculty member. In 2008, the visiting team to Solano College apparently contained no faculty members. Assembly Bill 1397 requires modest procedural changes to the way the regional accreditor conducts its meetings and makes decisions. As a matter of fact, what's being proposed is not much different than the way you conduct and make your decisions here right now. Are those requirements overly onerous in the interest of the public? Assembly Bill 1397 gives sanctioned institutions an opportunity to appeal and protects against conflicts of interest. These changes will help the accreditation process to be more transparent and accountable. In addition, we think it will improve the accreditation process, which all of us in California community colleges value. For these reasons, I strongly urge your aye vote on AB 1397. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Madeline Franklin. I'm from Lodi, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley. For all students, it's imperative that the public education system we attend remains credible and that we are not put in a situation where the future of our education is being questioned. This issue is personal to me. My brother is a junior in high school and plans to attend community college. My best friend is a community college student who wants to be a kindergarten teacher. If their CCs lost accreditation at the hands of an inconsistent and non-transparent accreditor, it would completely derail their plans to transfer. It would also derail our community. I'm from the Central Valley, and I understand how important California's community colleges are to Central Valley communities. Most of my classmates from Tokay High School in Lodi attended or currently attend community college, as did many of their parents. Their education has provided them with innumerable opportunities and empowerment. If our local community college was unfairly sanctioned or disaccredited, their pride in their education would be unjustly diminished, and our entire community would suffer. This measure will put in place just a couple of modest reforms to ensure a fair accreditation process for California community colleges. As students who pay to attend these schools and look forward to receiving some of the best education in the nation, we need to know that the environment in which we choose to learn is a stable one and should promote equity and fairness. The ACCJC, as a taxpayer-funded accreditor, serving the public, has an obligation to students to be transparent and consistent. AB 1397 will provide more transparency and consistency in the accreditation process, and for those reasons, I am pleased to support and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Others in support of the bill?
I'm Jonathan McLeod, and I represent the American Federation of Teachers, Local 1931. That's the San Diego and Gross-Cuyamaca Community College districts. We support accountability, transparency, open accreditation processes. We strongly urge a yes vote on this bill.
Jennifer Baker with the California Teachers Association. We've been long grappling with the issues of accountability and transparency for the ACCJC and believe that this bill provides an effective means of trying to ensure we achieve that with the ACCJC and urge your support.
My name is Harley Litzman. I'm a student at UC Davis, and I encourage you to vote yes on this bill. I'd also like to communicate the support of the student regent of the University of California, Avi Obed, who would also like to communicate his support. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee, Madam Chair. We applaud the efforts of the Assembly Member Phil Ting, a friend of labor and a friend of students. More importantly, we also favor the provisions in the law on transparency. We think it's long overdue.
I'm sorry, your organization, please?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. United Food, Sam Rodriguez on behalf of the United Food and Commercial Workers. Got it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, also here proud to support this bill. We think it's an important step to preserve objectivity, fairness, and transparency in the system, and we urge your aye vote.
Thank you.
Yes, Timothy Killikelly, AFT 2121, City College of San Francisco. We are in strong support of this bill, and we want to thank Assemblymember Ting for his strong work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea York on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. The accreditation process is vital to ensuring that we have strong curriculum. We need to make sure that steps are taken, that our accrediting agencies are acting in our best interests and with us, and this is a good governance bill. Support. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Hansen. I'm here for the California Community College Independent Faculty Unions in the state. And we strongly support this bill and hope the committee will vote in favor of it for the issue of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in support of the bill? Is there opposition to the bill? Please make room for the folks in opposition. The red dot, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Krista Johns, and I'm Vice President for Policy and Research at the ACCJC, the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges. Prior to going to that organization, I was a Chief Instructional Officer at a California Community College. Before that, I was a Dean at a California Community College. And long over decades, I've had various jobs, including as faculty member. And I'm coming to you in opposition of this bill. I would have to say that there is information that has been put forward that is potentially misleading or directed at saying that there is the need for additional regulation in areas where, in fact, the system is working and is appropriately in place. The regional accrediting commissions are entities that are approved, and their regions are approved by the federal government. The U.S. Department of Education is the implementing agency. The regional accrediting commissions, the regions are made up of multiple states and or territories or affiliated countries. And in that sense, the scheme calls for a regulatory place that would include equal access and equal voice by all members of those regions. And in that regard, the federal scheme is the appropriate scheme for that. Let me say that there has been a lot of comment about transparency. And transparency is being used as a word where it's impossible to say you're not for transparency. The ACCJC is completely in support of transparency, and in fact has been known among the other regional accrediting commissions as one that actually operates with greater transparency than is the norm for accrediting commissions. In what ways, you might ask? There isn't a requirement of public sessions, for example, and yet the ACCJC has made that a regular part of its practice. It does permit public comment related to whatever people want to speak on at a public session of the commission meeting. It does require that letters about the accredited status of institutions and reports, both from the college and from the teams, be made publicly available by posting online. It has for many, many years posted all of the actions on institutions. And in fact, that notification to the public is done at the same time as the notifications to the institutions themselves and to the federal government and to committees such as yourself since recent legislation. So there is a great commitment to and a value for transparency. One might say that there are also competing values. And in the literature about transparency, what we do know is that the importance of improving public understanding and making people aware of actions that are taken is supported through appropriate transparency. But in areas related to evaluation and deliberation, it's found that unless transparency is appropriately conducted, it will actually damage those activities. And the ways in which effective organizations have handled that is by having sessions that are private for deliberations or evaluative, and then having opportunity to announce or communicate those pieces in a public venue, public meeting. And so while we are most supportive of transparency and we are concerned about this competing value of being able to protect the deliberative process, and also to ensure that there's a freeness in giving and sharing of information by our member institutions in that peer evaluation environment. So moving past that to particular areas of 1397, if I may just touch on one or two things. There are many provisions and I could answer questions about a lot of them, but there are some areas where the language of the law would potentially conflict with federal regulations. One example I will give you is the one that requires that there be consistency with standards and state law. In fact, it should be expected that the minimum requirements of a state law may be exceeded or extended within accreditation standards that are geared toward excellent practices. Those, that requirement of consistency, if taken as just being not in conflict, is one thing, but to say that perhaps a higher requirement would be inconsistent would be problematic with the purpose of accreditation and what's required in the federal law. There are some other pieces that may be detrimental to effective accreditation practice. Just two quick examples. One is the idea of a 6-week notification or period between the issuance of a team report and the commission meeting. Right now, what we urge colleges to do and what our practices do is allow for current information. And that does shorten the timelines, but there are timelines which our member institutions have accepted as time periods for reviewing team reports, both draft reports before they're made final and final reports before they're heard by the commission, and that those pieces, that timeline is appropriate. So 6 weeks may be too much. There is room for changing in policy to the degree that things aren't locked into statute. But at this point, the practice has been that there be approximately 3 weeks before the commission meeting where the college would get the final report and be able to comment on it. They would have had a chance to comment on a draft report months or several weeks before that. There are provisions in the statute that could cause concern in terms of misunderstanding about the accreditation process. The public comment piece, for example. We definitely want public comment on the accredited status and reviews of our institutions. And those processes are built in during the fact-finding section where there's the opportunity to hear those, verify and validate, and when necessary, get the college to respond. To do something like this in just a period of time immediately before commission action would lend the impression that this is a sort of a public opinion kind of a process, rather than one that's based upon facts and looking for the verifiable information. And so I just mentioned those as examples of issues within the legislation so that I can raise an issue with you, a larger one perhaps, which is whether or not it would be appropriate for this kind of legislation to proceed by the California legislature, dealing with matters that are already addressed within the federal law, already addressed within the ACCJC policies and standards, because when you act, you are acting in a manner that would also affect all of the institutions that are in our region. And those institutions do not have the opportunity to be represented here or to be able to offer their advocacy either for or against particular pieces of the law. In general, what I would also say is that the ACCJC is, when it talks about a voluntary accreditation, it's not that you volunteer to be accredited. It's that as an accredited institution, you agree voluntarily to engage in deep and reflective self-evaluation and to peer evaluation. And in that sense, that notion of peer evaluation is one that is voluntary and only works if it is voluntary. I would also have to say that if you talk about, there was a comment about commissioners being selected by a committee. Actually, the commissioners have been for about 5 years elected by the members of the presidents of the member institutions. And so those are not individuals who are appointed by a select group. That process was eliminated in an earlier round of conversation with the U.S. Department of Education. I don't want to take too much time on nitpicking, so if I could answer questions, I'm happy to. But overall, I would like to register our request that this bill be defeated.